Okay, I think we should go into full spoilers then.
I think so.
Okay, let's kind of wait off a little bit. Let everybody. All right, guys, it's a good time to
shut it off and go watch the movie.
watch the movie.
However you can.
Yeah,
Get out
take
of
a
here.
break.
Go to a drive-in.
Drive-ins are a good choice. Support your local drive-ins.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Spoiler review.
Full spoiler.
Man, he killed a lot of people.
Did he really though? Not that many.
Well, if you think about the riot that he caused.
Oh yeah. It's not his fault.
The Waynes are not happy with him.
Right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll go through the timeline and we'll talk about things as we go on. So again, full spoilers. I can't emphasize that enough. Well, we start off with him getting beaten up by a bunch of kids, which just kind of shows like he's such a sad sap, you know. Yeah. And then we move into the social worker meeting, and I think the social worker meeting was really important because we learned about his uncontrollable laughter.
Did we learn about that there? He first
Well, it might have
laughs
been
there.
the bus.
Yeah, it was
right
afterwards on a bus trip. Yeah.
You're right. That's the first time we got to see. And what's funny is when we're seeing it, we're actually not familiar with what he's doing, so it's really off-putting.
He's just laughing with his social worker, and we thought that's kind of odd.
But we do see, I think, his notebook there, and his notebook is what reminded me of is the Heath Ledger version of Joker.
Yeah,
where because for
scribbles and you see several times porn pictures cut out and pasted in there and stuff.
So weird, yeah. If you guys didn't know, Heath Ledger actually locked himself away. I think it was for 30 days in a hotel room to get ready for his Joker, and would purposely make like insane notebooks. Yeah. And so just right away it took me back to that. I was like, "Ooh, that's a good sign." And then we learned about his uncontrollable laughter on the bus. Yeah, that's right. That's where he gives the card to that poor.
Yeah, and making faces at the kid, and the mom gets mad. Yeah.
We see that he takes care of his frail mom. His mom is definitely on the way out, and he's kind of just living with her, and that seems to be his sole purpose in life is to make sure that she's still kicking around.
Yeah, and so right there you find out that the mom supports and totally believes in the Wayne family. She's totally pro Waynes. She keeps writing letters to Thomas Wayne, hoping that he would send some support to the family.
Yeah, she used to work for them.
Yeah, so she says, if he knew what conditions we were living in, because I used to work for him, he would send us some money and help us get out of this.
And then we get an important piece of the show. It's kind of the first of two Chekhov guns in this movie. One of them's literally a gun. But the first one is that they watched the Murray Franklin show. Yeah. Or Murray Franklin live show. I kept writing Tonight Show in all my notes. But yeah. And so what this is, it's hosted by Robert De Niro, who also did a really good job. I would totally watch his show. And it's your normal like Carson level Tonight Show. Things are going well. Yeah. And he fascinates that he's on that show. And one thing I like was when he's on the show, and he's fascinating about that is in the
fantasizing.
Yeah, that he thinks of himself being worthy of the show because he takes care of his mom. Yeah, or like what I'm saying, like he's a good person. That's why. That's
what makes him worthy of the appreciation that he gets on it.
Right. Yeah. Right. And while you're watching, you're like, oh, this would be great if it was real, but you can kind of tell like halfway through, like, no, something's a little.
Yeah, it's a daydream. It's all going a little too good.
Too good. Yeah.
And yeah, Maury Franklin.
He's dressed very well.
Maury Franklin calls him down and says. After they go to credits or whatever, or commercials, tells him, oh, you're such a good kid. It's really good what you're doing for your mom. I would be really proud to have you as a son or have a son like you or something.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Murray is his pseudo dad then.
Yeah, I imagine that's part of his psychological, his abandonment issues from his father.
Wow.
He gives him a big old hug and stuff like that. Yeah.
That could lead into the future in important ways too.
Yeah. Yep. More gratifying ending.
Yeah. The next day he gets a gun from his friend at work who's saying like protect yourself. And this is the second Chekhov's gun. Literally, it's the gun. And so for those of you guys who are not familiar with this rule, is in a story, in a movie, in a play. It started off in plays, I think it was. If a gun is introduced in the first act, it has to go off by the last act. And so basically that means that you're setting up the tool of the demise. You're foreshadowing the end of the movie. Yeah. So Murray and his gun are both foreshadowed. Yeah. And we move forward into. We see him kind of like one thing I want to talk about too is we have multiple shots of the same thing. One is him like trudging through the streets, downtrodden, shows his loneliness really because his mom doesn't really even connect with him. Otherwise, he really has nobody else in his life that of any importance. Another one is we always see him looking out the window. Yeah. While he's like riding on the bus, riding in the car. Yeah. Later on,
we later are able to realize that he's probably daydreaming more often than he shows us. When he's just zonked out, just staring out of the window, he might be on the Murray Franklin show again or something like that.
I wonder,
seeing more illusions.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's some sort of because this movie is one of those things where when you watch it, you're like, there's metaphors on metaphors. Yeah, and so I wonder if there's like a metaphor of him like looking through the glass for something.
I don't know.
There's got to be something there,
Also, another scene that you skipped over was the boss firing him,
Mm-hmm.
and or maybe he didn't fire him then.
That's coming up.
But telling him you got to pay for that sign, and why would you keep the sign? So like really just giving him a hard time over the sign that these kids stole, and then they broke over his face and then jumped him, beat him up, and it's just in the setting and the mood of that scene, you really feel him sink even more, and I feel like you just keep seeing these scenes where he's just sinking deeper and deeper, and it's just like, man, that's really messed up. His boss is gonna make him pay out of his check, for some other company's sign that he was stolen and beaten with. It was messed up. You
ever see a movie called A Serious Man?
No.
It's a Coen Brothers movie. Oh. It's essentially the same kind of story where there's this man who, and it's all about him trying to decide if there is a God, and if there is a God, what is his plans? Mm-hmm. And so he's a man who keeps like going to different rabbis and give him different advice. And as time goes on, things get worse and worse for him. It's the Twitch disconnected. Things are getting worse and worse for him, and just like piling up things. So it's kind of that situation where it's just like everything's continuously piling up. Life is always just getting worse, and he's just finding a way through it. Mm-hmm. We see when he gets back to his house, there's this cute like woman that that lives in the same apartment as him.
Yeah,
building.
They're in the elevator together.
Yeah, and they kind of do this little meme or joking around, shoot each other in the head, type of thing like that.
She was being funny about it. He was awkward about it afterwards.
Yeah. They're like, "Hey," and they're like, "Does that?" They're like, "Ooh, man, you practiced." That's not great.
You were thinking about it the whole time we were quietly standing in the elevator, weren't you?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Which shows, just his awkwardness.
Her name was Sophie, but I don't remember it being mentioned.
I have woman written down multiple times in my notes.
Yeah,
so
I kept putting neighbor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good. But yeah, so now we see like, okay, this is going to be the love interest, if you can call it that, of the film. Okay. We later on see that he like bathes his mom. The level of care he gives to his mom is next tier.
Yeah, very, very, I don't know, hands-on.
I don't know.
He's the only reason his mom's still alive.
If it gets to that point for my folks, I know you guys sometimes listen, we're hiring a nurse. So just a heads up on that.
with those live-in homes or care homes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll visit, I promise.
Yeah, I'm sure. It'll be next like that, Wendy's.
But also in that scene, we find that his mom doesn't think he's funny.
Oh my God, that was one of the best jokes of the whole show.
Yeah, that was sad but funny. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna be a stand-up comedian. I'm gonna go up on stage and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, but honey, you think you can do that? And he's like, well, yeah, I got it lined up, whatever. But don't you have to be funny to do that?
Yeah. Oh, it's so
And it's like, oh, wow. Even your mom, who's totally very obvious or very clear that she has full faith in the Waynes.
Yeah.
And that Thomas Wayne should be the next mayor and he's going to fix this place, and very, headstrong about that. She can't just lie to you and say, oh, yeah, you're funny. You'll do good. You'll be successful. No, don't you got to be funny to do that? That's kind of heartbreaking. Poor guy's getting kicked down even by his mom, who he's bathing by hand.
Yeah. That was great. Okay, so and then we learn that, or later on, he's by himself in the living room, and I think this is important. Mm-hmm. He's holding the gun. He's kind of checking out the gun, and he starts to dance with the gun.
Yeah.
And he accidentally shoots it off into the wall.
What do you think that means?
I think that shows. Okay, so this is my grand theory. Okay, there's a scientific idea out there basically that says that birds and humans are the only ones that sing because we're the only ones that feel comfort. Mm-hmm. So birds are up high, so they don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And then humans sing because we're on the top.
Yeah.
So I kind of had put that principle to this movie when I thought about it, and I was like, okay, so every time he's holding the gun or does something that brings him confidence, he dances because it's his way of showing I'm safe.
Yeah.
And it's that confidence.
It's like a cat going belly up. You feel like you're in control. You don't have to worry about nobody around you. He's, of course, in his apartment with the door locked and stuff, but he has a gun now, even if it was loaded, but even if it wasn't loaded, I feel like I'm in control. I'm confident. We see in other scenes him dancing like that. So I agree. I think it's the same thing.
Only time he does that too, because otherwise he's always very kind of almost shoulders in, shrunken within to himself. Yeah. That is a good point though. Yeah, cats and dogs, guys. If you guys don't know that, if your cat and dog sleeps with their belly up, that means that they feel safe.
Yeah, they totally trust you with their life, because their belly is what
it's the most exposed.
Yeah, bitten and kill them.
Yeah. So I think that might be the case. I think it's belly up. A good way to put it. Yeah. Okay. Then we see that he watches the woman throughout the day and kind of like follows her.
The neighbor, yeah.
Sophie. We're gonna have to remember that.
So he stalks her. He follows her down the street, down a pretty long ways, right? Didn't she take a bus or something too?
Yeah, she went to work. Yeah, he basically followed her.
She worked
all
at
day. Like a bank, I think it was.
A bank, yeah.
which I thought like maybe he's gonna rob the bank, but he's not at that point yet.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. So that's something we'll come back to that once we kind of go to a reveal.
Yeah.
On what the heck that was. And then we see that he goes to a nightclub, and I think this is really, really important, really telling. He goes to a nightclub and he's taking notes. And while the
comedy club.
I'm sorry, comedy club.
Yeah.
And while the comedians doing their jokes, the audience will laugh at the punchline.
Yeah.
And then his laugh comes in while it's a setup.
Yeah.
He's not laughing at the same thing they're all laughing. I mean, I know it's his fits, but still.
But he didn't seem nervous. It didn't look like his normal anxiety laughing. It seemed like he was laughing out of entertainment of the setup of a joke.
And he's watching other people while they're doing it. So he's like getting entertainment out of society watching jokes being told.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. So it's just a clear key, like a sign that he's not on the same tune with everybody else.
Right.
He doesn't see what they see as funny and vice versa.
Yeah.
So
it's a joke that nobody else would understand, which becomes in later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't seem like he's having one of his episodes right now. He's literally laughing at the wrong.
Yeah.
Which he could be.
A guy walked in the bar, and then he, ordered a whatever, and everybody else starts laughing, and
he's dead
like,
silent.
Oh, okay.
If anything, he's writing notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing too is when you see his notes, everything's misspelled. He's outside of the line, so I think he has no education.
Yeah.
Or very little of it. I'm not sure. Yeah. So it's really, really weird.
And it could be part of his disorder, just lack of motor controls and I don't know.
So the next big event of the movie, and I think probably the next act kicks in here pretty soon, is he gets fired from work for accidentally dropping a gun in a children's hospital. Yes. That'll do it. That'll usually do it.
And he was having a pretty good show. I liked it. He was entertaining.
He had a little dance. I was like, I gotta learn that dance. It's gonna be the new craze. Everybody's gonna start doing that dance at prom.
Right.
His little clown dance.
Yeah.
All you people on the stream on YouTube just caught that. You're welcome.
But then the gun falls out of his pant leg or something like that.
Yeah, and he's like, it's part of my act.
It's like, he picks it up and then kind of tries to play it off. And gets fired.
So he gets fired for that, and then he's on the train or on the subway home, and okay, so we're gonna talk about what happens, but basically these three guys are being jerks to this woman, and he starts having his laugh fits, and they come over and they just start beating him up. They harass him. And he ends up shooting all three of them.
Yeah. Oh, such.
Very well done.
So exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say he just shoots all three of them, but it's very...
You're hoping to see him pull the gun, threaten him or something like that, like you would expect most people. No, these guys are bullying him. They push him to the ground. They start fighting with him. I was thinking, oh crap, his gun's going to fall loose. One of them is going to grab it.
Yeah.
Nope. You just see a bullet hole through two guys. And then you see that, okay, he's got the gun. He's in control of the situation. And then he chases down the other one afterwards.
Yeah.
So I like how they really suspensefully, really in an exciting turn, gave him control.
He went full animal mode too, because that third guy, he very well almost like prey and predator mode, kind of stalked at him. Yeah.
He wanted to make sure he didn't get away to tell everybody what happened too.
Yeah, and I think there's a big important real life analog to this is a man named Bernie Getz. If you guys aren't familiar with Bernie Getz, he's a man from New York who obviously Gotham reminds much of us of New York, who did the same thing essentially. There was a crime problem in New York, and he shot some young gentleman on a subway. And the same thing happened in this story that happened in the Bernie Getz story, except for at the end, we find out Bernie Getz was problematic from the beginning. But everybody in the city they start to kind of worship him as a vigilante.
Yeah.
So I don't have that in the rest of the story, but a background story that we're seeing go on is slowly people are starting to wear clown makeup and stuff like that to protest the big and rich people and stuff like that. They see, because these three guys that were shot were all rich, stockbrokers.
They were Wayne employees.
They were, which means Thomas Wayne's going to try to become mayor.
So to get into more of what's going on in the city is there's a big divide going on right now, protests and riots and stuff, because the classes in the city are being divided further. So there's the wealthy who seem to control everything and have all the money, and then the middle class is pretty much gone. So the poor are getting poorer and having a hard time surviving and being pretty much controlled and bullied by the wealthy.
Yeah, that's not happening in real life.
So so this guy is shooting three, of the Wayne employees on a train, three rich, pompous white kids.
Yeah.
He's pretty much seen as a hero, and it goes on the news and becomes a big thing. And everybody, even though he didn't go out and say anything about it at the time, everybody sees him as a martyr for this change that needs to come in their society.
So right after the shooting, we see one of the most important things in the film. He runs off. He gets into this public bathroom and he locks the door, and after he starts to breathe, he starts to dance.
I like how, though, you see him running frantically, but they show it from several angles. He's running, but he's not being chased by anybody.
That's a good point.
And it was kind of interesting because you think, he just shot people, ran out of the subway. There's 3 bodies laying there. Like, you would think somebody would have called attention to it or something like that. That's just how bad the city is.
Yeah.
Nobody,
it's just shots that went off in the city. That's
nobody's worried about, okay, 3 more punks died, whatever.
Yeah.
And then later they find out they're wealthy kids and it becomes a big news thing. But, assuming it was meth heads or whatever, it's not pursued. And yeah, he gets away. He even looks behind him and you're thinking like, oh, a cop's going to come around the corner and be after him. Nope. He was running. He was afraid of what he did, but then he, like you're saying, got to the bathroom and nobody was after him.
And once he realizes he's safe again, he starts to dance again.
Yeah.
Showing that not only is it the gun that released him, but just using it, killing somebody, took some weight off his shoulders.
Being in control because he's been bullied. He just got jumped by those like 5 teenage boys not that long ago. And so in this time, having the power to defend himself, killed these 3 guys. Yeah. And now he realizes like, you know what, I can control my life. I can make decisions that alter my destiny, and I don't have to just be, a turd getting kicked on the street anymore.
He feels safe. He feels confident.
Yeah.
And we see that confidence follow through when he goes back to his apartment and he starts to kiss Sophie.
Yes.
Remember the name.
So the music was perfect there too, because it changes to where you feel, oh man, he's the man right now. He's got power. He's got confidence. He's going to do what he wants, how he wants. And sure enough, he marches to her apartment. She had flirted with him prior.
Yeah.
So, which, we didn't go over that scene.
No, we'll go in the future.
But she flirted with him a little bit. So he goes back and opens the door and just charges in and kisses her. And she doesn't seem to resist. So
it's like a real meet cute situation. Yeah. Like you'd see Ted Mosby doing this on How I Met Your Mother kind of thing.
Super romantic. Like she was hoping he would come over. And sure enough, he did. And the door closes.
Good old Joker.
Yeah.
Arthur at this point. Arthur Fleck.
Yeah. So that was a really cool scene to see him empowered like that until you realize what it could have been.
And then we see that Thomas Wayne's going to announce running for mayor. So that's not really that big of a deal, to be honest with you. But the next important thing I want to talk about is we see Arthur. He's at the next social worker meeting. And this one, he's finding out that he's losing funding. But what did you want to bring
One thing to note, though, Thomas Wayne, when he's on TV, is insulting the Joker on the news.
Okay,
And the public doesn't like that. The public's seeing Joker as a martyr, so that's even further wedging apart the wealthy and the poor and stirring up the riots even further.
Yeah. At the social worker meeting, though, we just saw him have one in the beginning, but the second one, far more confident. Yeah. He's just spelling it out. He's like, you don't listen to me. Like, he's actually, like, focused.
So, should we leave the psychological stuff for the end?
No, yeah, leave that till we get to it.
I think that's something going on right there, but okay.
I know. It's so good.
But yeah, he's
we're gonna get to the twist. So we're gonna do another spoiler when just right before that.
So he starts just listening or just talking, and then she's like, Arthur, I gotta stop you. The funding's been cut. I need you to know this is gonna be our last session. And then he rants at her, gets upset with her, and tells her like, you don't listen to me, do you? I've been telling you the same thing. All I have is negative thoughts, like we see in the trailer.
All I have is negative thoughts. The way he says that's like, oh
you
man,
ask,
it's so good.
How was my day? How was work? How was my job or whatever? And then do you have any negative thoughts? And he says, that's all I have is negative thoughts.
Yeah, it's so hard not to sympathize with this man.
Yeah,
and yet
and she makes it clear right there that he's getting his medications cut too, because he asks, well, if the funding's cut for the program, where do I go to get my meds? And she says like, I don't know, or something that makes us believe that he won't be able to get any medication after this point.
And it's further proof that the disenfranchised are not being taken care of.
Yeah, exactly. Within Gotham.
All right. And then again, we have the clowns in the background that are going crazy. One big thing we learn after that is Arthur is Thomas Wayne's son, according to his mom.
So at this point, doesn't he go on stage and do his performance where he laughs and chokes?
Do I have that down right here? I think that's next. I could be wrong. Yeah, nevertheless. Okay, so we'll go into that. He goes on the stage.
It's after he comes back from the comedy show that he gets mom's letter.
Okay.
Mom's letter, yeah.
You're right.
So he's on stage and starts having one of his laughing fits and can't control
Sophie
it.
went out to see him and she's being supportive.
Yeah, he sees her in the back, so he's kind of excited, nervous, but goes on a stage, has a bad laughing fit.
Oh, a bad one. And you feel so bad for him. Like, this is your one chance, man.
But you see, after a little while, people aren't too cruel to him. After a little while, he gets a little traction. Starts having a good show. Starts saying some good jokes apparently are landing because it sounds like people are laughing.
Yeah, it was... This movie's so good.
He feels confident that he's doing a good job there. That's what we see.
Yeah, and so then he gets back and, after the show... Trying to do this in order is real rough. We just want to spill the beans. It's like watching Prestige and trying to say like, but the two brothers.
No, we did no spoilers. This has to be like light spoilers, and then like let's dig deep into what we really think was going on.
So then he goes to the hospital, or he finds out that his mom's being taken to the hospital, and she had a stroke after the police were questioning her.
Yeah.
About the 3 men that were killed. So Arthur's sitting in the hospital with his mom, and that's where let's see, where are we at here? Oh yeah, does he learn about the mom's?
So.
Because his mom goes to the hospital.
Before she goes to the hospital, he gets the letter, reads the letter.
I have this whole phase mixed up.
Yeah, so mom's letter to Thomas Wayne reveals that Arthur's his son.
Okay, yeah.
So he reads that letter that says that, I don't remember how it is, but
it's basically like, Thomas, help support me and your son.
Yeah. And so he's like, wait, Thomas Wayne might be my dad. So that's when he goes to the gates and meets Bruce. He goes to the mansion.
Oh man, what an impactful scene.
And he's just being a playful clown, trying to lure the kid to the gate. Kind of creepy, but
right.
gets Bruce there, and then
that forceful smile though is such a foreshadow into their future relationship.
Yeah,
where he's like forcing the smile, and Bruce is not having any of it, and then we actually get Alfred interrupts him.
Was it Alfred?
Yeah,
I just assumed it was just some random.
I just assumed it was Alfred.
Oh, okay.
It's his,
Yeah.
There's only one butler of all of Wayne Manor, right?
I thought he was a security guard, but
I thought it was Alfred. But yeah, so
Arthur puts his fingers in Bruce's mouth and pulls his cheeks up to make him smile.
Yeah, so disturbing.
To cheer him up.
It's like, dude, don't touch that kid.
But then he does ask for his dad, right?
Yeah.
And then that's when security or Alfred comes up and intervenes and tells him, get out of here. But doesn't he tell him that no, your mom's crazy? None of that was true.
Alfred spoils that. It says that your mom was delusional.
Yeah.
And so he wants to follow up on that.
So that's when he comes home and finds the paramedics rushing out of the apartment with his mom. Okay. And then so we see after that, of course he goes with them to the hospital. His mom's stable. And then he's sitting outside the hospital smoking. That's one thing too, is he smokes a lot in this movie, which we don't see very often.
Yeah,
but it plays well for the character.
Well, and at that time in history, because this takes place like in the 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very commonplace.
Yeah.
Even when I was a child, you went into a Denny's or whatever, and they told you smoking or non-smoking. Yeah. And now that's not even a thing, especially in California. That never going to happen.
Not even an option.
But back then, it was just so common. Matter of fact, it's so funny. This is out of the thing. I was somewhere like in Walmart, and I could smell somebody had been smoking like an actual cigarette, not an e-cigarette or something like that. And it was just like, man, that's like a waft of childhood there. That's so funny that brings me back to the good old days.
Reminds you when you were a kid and mom and dad are like bringing you in the casino to get you to the arcade.
Or, Grandpa used to have the bar. It reminded me of that. And it was oh man, it's kind of funny. That's a weird thing to kind of flashback.
I miss the smell of cigarette smoke.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Side note, guys, but yeah, it's childhood for you.
So at the hospital, he's sitting out on a bench when the detectives approach him, right?
Yeah. And they kind of like just give him the, and he's actually very confident there too, and like, don't bug me.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about that, and I didn't dig any deeper into whether that was something more than it was, more than face value. But I'm thinking like maybe there was more going on that we didn't understand. At
this point is when he goes up to the room and he watches Murray's show with his mom up in the
yes.
So the
one scene though I want to point out in that little part where they're talking to the detectives, the only scene in the whole movie I was not satisfied with was when he leaves the detectives, because he gives them some confident rant of I don't have anything to say to you guys or whatever. They want to bring him in on charges and hold him or bring him in for questioning or whatever.
Yeah.
And he says, pretty much I don't need to talk to you guys. Storms off and walks into the glass door.
Oh yeah, that
kind of just broke the mood, the rhythm. He was doing good, and then it was just like the clown,
we didn't need it.
Yeah,
it really cut the tension.
Yeah,
and it should have stayed high.
So it would have been a really good scene if they just cut that part out. He just let him walk through the door. He was, I don't know, but I know the clown aspect. They wanted to kind of not change who he is with his evolution or whatever he's
cut
going
back
through,
on his confidence a little bit, because he got a lot of confidence in that speech, and so he didn't really want too much confidence. Maybe that's why. I don't know. It was really weird.
So it was just kind of a weird scene. It kind of, I don't know. To me, it like you're saying, it cut the tension and offset that scene a little too much.
So that evening we see he's on the Murray show. Murray does like these like, oh, you think I'm bad at jokes? Check this guy out.
Oh yeah.
And then
he's sitting on a bench in the room with his
Waiting.
mom and Sophie, right?
Well, Sophie left already, but she
Okay.
was there earlier to be supportive.
Okay.
But yeah, so he sees this and he sees that here his idol, which
Yeah.
now we're thinking surrogate dad maybe even.
Murray Franklin, yeah.
Murray Franklin is showing clips of his stand-up and that they're bombing.
Yeah.
And showing that like,
He's
this
ridiculing
kid
him on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which, of course shatters Arthur.
Yeah.
And then we go into and then he visits Arkham Asylum to get proof that Thomas was right because he let's see, let me pull back a little bit here. Let me make sure we have this correct. So he goes to Arkham Asylum after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he finds out that he was because Thomas said he was adopted. Or am I jumping forward too much?
Yeah, so I see here we have. I'm sorry, I tried to take a lot of notes. Right after that, we see that the citizens are rioting even more.
Yeah, that's stepping up. Yeah,
and he's starting to feel. I noted here he's starting to feel like a secret celebrity. He's starting. You see in his face, he's starting to get some satisfaction out of that. Like, oh man, whatever I did, it's actually having an impact, and he's feeling appreciated through the figurehead of a clown being represented as in the riot and stuff like that. But then. He goes to the opera after this and the theater.
I have it.
Meets Arthur Wayne or meets
Thomas
Wayne in the bathroom of all places, and but Thomas drops a bunch of hard truth on him that hey, your mom was mentally unwell and she wanted all this stuff to be true, but none of this was true, and I'm not your dad and blah blah blah.
And then you were adopted.
You were adopted and abused and neglected. That they found you in your mom's apartment and you'd been beaten by her boyfriend and chained to a radiator.
And he went to Arkham afterwards to get all kinds of proof of that. So it's not like Thomas is lying to him because that actually was all proven later on. And
I don't remember if he started laughing or what it was that caused it, but Thomas punched him.
I think it might have been his laughter, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
Because anytime he gets his nerves up, which would be a time to do that when you find out everything went wrong.
So Thomas punched him in the face. His dream dad. I mean, this guy's running for mayor, big figurehead. Mom loves him to death.
Yeah.
Be a great father figure.
And he doesn't want any money out of him. I like that. He didn't want any money out of him. He just wanted to talk to him.
Yeah.
So after the Arkham situation and he gets all his proof that Thomas was right, he goes to Sophie's apartment, and this is a trip. And this is what you got next on your notes?
He went to Arkham Asylum and stole the file, right?
He stole a file, yeah.
To figure out the truth about the mom.
So he goes to Sophie's apartment, and it's very odd because while he's walking in there, he's kind of feeling the walls. I was like, wait a minute, we just saw you in this apartment not long ago. And he sits on the couch. Sophie walks in and is startled by him. The reason for this
Such a good twist. This was a Shyamalan twist almost.
It was.
But better.
Sophie has not been hanging out with him at all. Mm-hmm. They're not going out. They're not dating. This was all a delusion on Arthur's part.
We in our review didn't mention several small scenes where they just show him where we used to see him walking down the street alone. Mm-hmm. We would occasionally see him walking with Sophie or buying, a hot dog at a hot dog stand or something like that with Sophie. So they had these little dates.
She was at the apartment or she was at the hospital with him.
Yeah. So
she was at the nightclub or the comedy club.
They were kind of getting, not super serious.
Somewhat
but
dating,
she was around him a lot and comfortable with him, and he could rely on her and stuff. Yeah. So he's sitting on her couch. She comes in the room like startled, like, who are you? You could tell she probably just put her daughter down to sleep.
Yeah.
And she says, You're Arthur, right? The guy from down the hall.
Oh, it's so crazy.
And then just that, oh gosh, she doesn't know who he is. She hasn't been with him this whole time. The last contact they probably made was in that elevator.
Yeah.
Where he made that awkward, like, I will blow my brains out too kind of thing. And so you realize that, because we just found out through him stealing the Arkham files and what Thomas Wayne explained, his mom is not only like delusional, but severely delusional. Like she's really bad, supposedly.
She thinks that Thomas is. It's not that she's lying. She thinks that Thomas was the father of her child.
Yeah, and
now we see.
And now we see that that's exactly what Arthur has, is grand delusions,
which changes everything.
Yeah,
this is where we get the big term, unreliable narrator, because we don't know if anything we've seen was true.
Yeah,
you can't trust a thing we see from before this and after this now.
Yeah. So now we know just about every scene with Sophie was fake. So, but those were, not just like fake. Those were his fantasies, his imaginations. What his coping mechanism to make him feel better about what's going on in his life is, oh, it's okay. I have this girl who, said 2 sentences to me in the elevator. Now I'm madly in love with her. I imagine he stalked her that day, followed her to her work, but then he turned away.
I was wondering if you think that's real or not.
Yeah, I imagine he followed her, but she didn't come by the apartment afterwards and say, "Hey, did you see?
Were
you
flirtatious.
Watching me?" Yeah, who would be flirtatious with their stalker?
No, that was all him.
Yeah,
man, that's so something else.
One
thing for the sound design aspect, it was kind of an easy move for the sound design, but as soon as the shock comes to her that he's in the apartment, thunder strikes outside.
Yeah,
lightning and then thunder follow up, which was kind of like. We're in an XD theater, so of course the sound penetrates you in an XD theater. And it was like, oh man, it makes you really feel the moment. Really good sound design in this movie. Fantastic job. Then he goes after this, he visits his mom. And one of the little quotes he says amongst his little like rambling of like, this is what my life is and you're to blame. Because, another thing, in the file, he does confirm that he was abused as a child by the mom's boyfriend. Now, she says he was never sad during this. Like, I never know you were sad. Do you think
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
It's his disorder. She assumed because he's laughing that he's enjoying it or playing around with him or something.
When I went on Reddit, because of course you got to go on Reddit. You got to do all your research on different theories on this movie because this movie deserves different theories. A lot of people are like, he got the laughing the disorder from the abuse. But I think the laughter was hiding his sadness because we've seen that already happen so many times.
I did like the scene too where he's reading the file and it shows pretty much him, grown Arthur, standing in the corner of his mom's interrogation. They did really good job with that scene.
Yeah.
But that makes so much sense. I didn't realize that. But yeah, his mom's boyfriend would probably beat him because he would just laugh at whatever he says. He says, clean up your toys or whatever. The kid starts laughing because he's scared because this guy's abusive.
And it kind of just continues to escalate because he has to laugh to cope with the situation.
So in timeout, chained to a radiator, malnourished because they didn't take care of him.
And just having laughing fits. And she's like, because she's delusional. She's catching just bits and pieces of reality. And in those bits and pieces, there's a child laughing. Things are
happy.
Good. Yeah. And then he tells his mom one of the best lines, the laugh was the real me. Which I was like, oh, man. That's a deep dive into yourself to say that.
The laugh was the real me.
And we get the big move where he actually puts a pillow over his mom's face and kills her.
Oh, yeah.
That was a biggie. So,
but really, in her state too, she needed hands-on care all the time. Like it's a lot less work for him after this.
Are you rooting for Joker to kill somebody?
I mean, not really, but I mean,
for Arthur at this point, I think we're starting to get into Joker right now. He's kind of that transition from Arthur to Joker right now.
Yeah, but she didn't have much quality of life at this point. She was insanely delusional. Yeah, and so he kind of was. Not that killing her was helping her, but putting her out of her own misery.
This is such a long review, by the way. We're at 48 minutes so far.
Go for an hour and a half.
Okay. Next up, we have now he plans on going on the Murray because he gets invited to Murray Franklin's show.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, that joke bit was actually funny. So why don't you come on and do a couple more of your
Everybody
bits.
wants to hear more of your comedy is what they try to pitch.
It's kind of like when a comedian's so bad that they're funny, essentially. So why don't you come on?
You watch a YouTube video where somebody does something really stupid and you want to exploit it for more
attention. Train wreck, so he plans on killing himself on them.
So we see him doing he's watching and rewatching an episode. We see him practice his little entrance and his, how he's going to shake his hand and stuff like that. Does a little one-line joke, and then his joke, the punchline is going to be him blowing his own brains out.
Yeah, it's so messed up. And then he's dyeing his hair, and he begins his transition. He does his final makeup, and we're really getting. That's another thing. Okay,
was he dancing throughout this process of dyeing his hair and stuff like that? It was at least the same.
I think he did. Yeah,
the same mood, the same vibe as when he dances. So I feel like he really feels we're into control.
Joker now.
Yeah.
Okay, was this when he put himself in the fridge?
I actually didn't write.
I think it is.
I didn't write when that was.
Because it wasn't a big deal. Is why you didn't write it down and why I didn't write it down. But when I was researching through people's thoughts on this, a lot of people feel like he never got out of the fridge. He might have
died in the fridge.
He might have died in the fridge, and then everything we see after that is his thoughts.
I don't believe any of that. Who would fantasize that they?
It's just kind of weird that he went in the fridge in the first place. Then,
because the final ending wouldn't be part of your fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The very, very end. Well, I mean, we can't trust anything. I love this movie so much.
I think that was just part of, being in control, confined space. People with, neurological disorders sometimes like to be like, if you have autism,
cocooning. He could be cocooning too, and then he's releasing himself afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see that his friends come by, and it was the guy that gave him the gun, and then this other friend of his. And we learn that he's off his meds.
Yeah.
Not great. And
somewhere in there, I'm not sure at what point. I think it was just before that. He sees the picture his mom had. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
With the TW on the back.
Yeah.
So you pointed that out to me in theaters, and I was like, "Oh man, TW! That means he did have a picture that his mom had gotten from Thomas Wayne, which means Thomas Wayne really is the dad." But you pointed out to me, no, that's how delusional the mom was. She was writing letters to herself from Thomas Wayne to make it look like.
And we have no proof either way, so it's one of those Inception things where I did the top tip over. We don't know which way it went.
Yeah.
It's so great because of that. You know, that's I like it that way. I want to not know.
Yeah.
Don't tell me for sure.
It's so suspenseful.
Yeah, because his reaction afterwards is like, yep, she was batshit crazy. Like, his reaction afterwards was like, that's too bad. So yeah, his friends come over. One of the friends was the one that gave him the gun, and he gets was it a knife or scissors? Scissors, and just went nuts on that dude. Oh, yeah. Crazy in the head.
He at first when he saw the big guy, he was kind of leery, like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing here?" And then he opened the door a little more and saw the little guy
because that big guy had betrayed him in the past. Said, "Oh yeah, when the gun situation happened, he was
tried to frame him or whatever.
Exactly,
put the blame on him."
So, and then the other friend was like, I don't want anything. He's like, "No worry, man. You're the only one that was safe to me or nice to me," and lets him go. Yeah. And it was just that moment you were on the edge of your seat. Like,
is he gonna kill the little guy too?
Like, come on, man. Just be cool. And he luckily lets the other friend go.
Yeah. It was a really good scene though it was a little gruesome. He killed the guy and stuff, but it was just such an exciting, well done scene.
In this moment too is another time where I was like, okay, so I think what they're doing is they're color enhancing all the blood.
Probably.
I don't know if you noticed it or not.
Because it was very. Well, I mean, he had white makeup on too.
Well, but I'm not even on the walls on everything. So there's one of two things I think they're doing. They're either color enhancing the blood, they're making it all much more vibrant, or the rest of the movie is saturated and they're leaving the blood normal. Yeah. So that it stood out. You guys, when you watch this movie, pay attention to that. Yeah. When you rewatch it, because I'm assuming you're all going to rewatch it like I am. The blood is extra vibrant. Yeah. So they must have toned something up on that. So there's something there. And we have full Joker. Now he's headed to the Murray Franklin show. He's got his jock jams going, and he's dancing down the stairway, which we see, a bunch of times in all the promos.
Feeling super empowered.
We looked this up, like what's the deal with the dancing? And Phoenix had said that moment there where they're dancing, they just got the score in, and he's like, man, that score just made me want to dance. Yeah. So he's purposely dancing because he liked that music. They didn't have any real plan for that. Yeah. That was him putting that in. But we're seeing full Joker now, where he's okay with it. He's chased by the detectives, and then because the detectives find him while he's doing this, and he like kind of escapes going through this subway, stuff like that. It really to me wasn't that really important.
It was a good scene though, just to see that, I don't know, he was evading the detectives using the riding clowns. Yeah, so
he like faded into the clowns, then got out. The one big note is when he's walking away from that scene, because eventually the detectives accidentally shoot an innocent guy. They're beating him. Then everybody starts to beat at the detectives. Yeah. But when he's walking away from him, that confidence in his stride was just like, that dude is Heath Ledger now.
That's exactly what I was going to go with it. Is I think right here we see one of the very first learning points of him evolving to Heath Ledger, because that's exactly how he rolls. Like, he's not hiding. He'll hide in plain sight. Yeah. And he learned in that moment that he can do that. And I think kind of figured out how he's going to operate in the future based on that. Because in the beginning of the Dark Knight, you see Heath Ledger doing that whole bank robbery and killing off the guys one by one. He comes out, no problem with just in plain sight. Yeah.
Okay, so he gets to the show. He has to be called Joker because that's what Murray had insulted him with, like, oh, look at this Joker when he was doing the clips. Yeah. So he wants to be called Joker when he's introduced. When the curtains are opening, he's mid-pose, like he's dancing.
He was doing that dance. Okay.
Yeah. So that means that I'm here. I'm ready. I'm confident. I'm safe. So this is what he's been waiting for.
And he makes a big entrance, dancing across the stage.
Yeah. And I noticed one thing too, or when he gets out, because he's having this conversation that seems to be going okay. He's awkward, but for Arthur, it's a pretty good conversation. And one thing too is Murray seems to be kind of okay with this guy. The makeup. There's a clown that just died, so it's kind of like this off-putting thing, but it's okay.
They kind of touched on it prior, right?
They did a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Like, but maybe that's what the people need to see.
Yeah.
Clown in good light kind of thing.
So I really think I would have liked this Murray character in real life. So he brings out the book, and we see in the book, he reads the passage that he had read in the beginning of the movie that was something along the lines of make sure your death is as important as your life, or something along that lines.
That was one of his jokes, is I hope my death makes more sense than my life.
Yeah.
Is what it was.
And that changed his plans. Because remember, his plans originally is to kill himself upon live TV.
Yeah.
That changed his plans a bit. Mm-hmm. So when he's there, he ends up confessing to killing the men on the train. And we see just pure Phoenix acting in this moment, where we have moments of confidence, humor. He has pure rage sometimes where he's like shaking, he's visibly shaking, like, but trying to stay contained.
Yeah.
And then other times where he's just super like slinging out the words while people around him are like, oh my God, no. The other guest is like, you can't be joking around about that. And then Murray's kind of like, he's doing a very good job of keeping this guy contained.
As a host, yeah, he's a good job. Like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? This guy's just confessed to being a murderer. I can't do anything that's going to be volatile and make him react, unstable. So, why would you do such a thing? He starts kind of asking him like, to delve into it a little deeper. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah. That was so good. And then we see finally his final joke, and he...
First, did you...
Ooh, nice.
Did you note the joke that he said prior?
It was a knock-knock joke, no?
The one where he said... and they said, oh, yeah, that's not very funny. I can't remember. I tried to look it up online. I couldn't find it. But I was wondering if that had any kind of significance later on in the story.
I think it was something about like a drunk driver or something like that.
Yeah, like the kid died in a car accident or something like that. Didn't come home to his parents or something like that.
Yeah.
People were like, oh, that's not very funny.
And then he's like, I think it's funny. Kind of
exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to see, what did he think that was funny that nobody else did, but I forgot.
I think for him it's a lot of like nihilism and the fact that nothing matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to see. I'll have to note it down next time I watch it.
You could easily rewatch this movie a few times and catch new things every time. I love movies like that.
But yeah, sorry, going to the punchline. It's funny.
The punchline to the joke is that he brings out his gun and he shoots Murray in the head.
Yeah.
And everybody's going nuts. And then he grabs the camera.
What was his line though? He says,
tell me.
Gosh, I can't remember exactly.
Don't bring up these lines.
No. It was good. It was good. His joke was, what do you get when you mix a society or a man with a psychological disorder and a society that continues to beat him down or something like that?
Yeah.
And then he stood up with the gun. He says, "You get what you deserve." That's what it was.
Like
you get what you deserve, and that's what the rioters were using as their mantra or whatever. You get what you deserve, and as they were killing people.
Shoots Murray, who now we're thinking surrogate father, like shooting Thomas Wayne almost.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least in his mind, it was his fictional father.
And it was the only thing tying him down. It was his goal to be on that show someday.
Yeah.
And he just released himself.
Yeah.
So then we see he like grabs the camera at one point, which is very Heath Ledger moment. It was really great.
Does such a good job at mirroring what could be Heath Ledger.
It really,
I loved it.
It's like a deeper version of him.
Yeah.
We see that he's hauled away, but we see that the city's like totally just blowing up around him. This sparked the city all the way. There was an escape attempt to get him out of there. Mm-hmm. And then he does like the blood smile on his face with his busted up mouth.
But I'll explain that the cops got him somehow, out
he
of the
was
studio.
All the way, yeah.
Yeah, he's in a cop car. An ambulance comes by and hits the cop car because you're thinking like, oh man, now he's going to prison, going to Arkham Asylum, whatever. Cop car gets hit by a ambulance. The ambulance drivers are all clowns. They get out and take him out of the smashed cop car. He's the only one that survived.
Yeah.
They lay him on the hood, and then from there he regains consciousness, stands up, and around him is just rioting clowns, insane everywhere.
Yeah.
And then he takes the blood from his mouth and draws, and his smile was very faded at the time. So draws with that, like you're saying, super vibrant blood, a new smile, which I thought that visual was really cool. Like. I kind of want to get a picture of him redrawing that blood as a wallpaper picture right there.
I know, right? That'd be good.
He stands on the hood of the car and kind of basks in his own glory, or as the rioters are celebrating him, and feels like like he dances quietly in the bathroom, but you can see him feeling that.
Now the city's with him on this one.
Yeah.
Question though, right before this, when they get hit, he's looking out the window and he's doing his fast, his. Why can I not say the word right, John? Fascinating? That's not it. Fantasizing, thank you.
Yeah.
So was all that fake? Because later on, after this, we see that he is in Arkham.
Yeah, so he does eventually make it there. So that's another variable, another question. Nobody will really know, but did his cop car get hit, or did he just get driven all the way to Arkham
And just
Asylum?
imagine that these people are rooting for me.
Yeah.
There's
several times, though. We can break them down. I don't have details.
I don't know if we need to because we're over an hour already.
Oh, yeah.
In this review. It's almost as long as the movie here pretty soon.
My God. But yeah, I think
one.
that one could easily be just a fantasy of his that as he's driving to Arkham Asylum in the cop car, that he sees the rioters, sees them wearing the clown makeup. Mm-hmm. They might not know that he personally is the one that shot Murray Franklin and started the riots and stuff like that.
I think they are. I think that's the reason they try to bust him out.
Yeah.
If it is the case,
If they bust him out,
if it's true, yeah, because then they have to like purposely like that's the cop car. I mean, it's so much
They have to
organization
search
that I don't
for it.
think it's real.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff that he does as future
post
Joker.
Yeah, it's once he's actually
as Heath
Joker.
Ledger, but yeah. So I think that could all easily be in his head, and he just made his way to Arkham Asylum. But it's a very cool scene that he's fantasizing and being able to rejoice and celebrate his victory, kind of that the clowns are celebrating with him and see him as an idol.
So let's finish up Arthur's story real quick, and then we'll go back to one thing. We see that he's in Arkham Asylum now. He's talking to the therapist, and he's laughing. Well, I know we'll talk about that in a minute, because that's gonna be a separate thing. Okay. So he's in Arkham, and he's laughing, and the therapist is like, "What's so funny?" And he says, "You wouldn't understand the joke."
Yeah, I wish I knew what the joke was, and that's why I wanted to go back and see what joke he told on stage with the kid drunk driving and stuff like that, because I'm wondering how well that compares.
I think he thinks life is a joke. I think he thinks that us striving is a joke, that society trying to exist is a joke. I think it's full nihilism from him. Maybe. At that point. Chaos. He wants to see things untethered. And I know chaos and nihilism are two different things, but I think it's kind of a mix of the both. Is he just wants to see the world free of these norms that they put in place.
Yeah, what we would see as chaos, he sees as freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the structure that has been built just keeps the powerful and the wealthy in power and the weak and oppressed suffering. And so he likes to see that broken free and level playing field.
Yeah.
What was it, like the bubonic plague, how it doesn't spare, and there's a saying, I don't know what it goes, but it doesn't spare the kings and the royal. It affects the peasants as well as the kings kind of thing. So it's like a level playing field. If you bring Thomas Wayne down to the gutters with everybody else, and he's going to die just like any other pig. Kind of thing.
And then we see that he might have killed the therapist. He's walking away with blood on his shoes.
Yeah, so that also could have easily been his joke.
It could have been easily delusion. Yeah.
No, I'm saying that could have been his joke. Is that you wouldn't find it so funny, but this thing that's going to happen in like 5 minutes.
I assumed it was him. I thought like, okay, he's pretending like I just killed her, and then he's walking away, and she's just fine in her office. Yeah. But he's kind of losing it, and then, All right. True. So, and then we're basically fade out there. He's in Arkham, which means that eventually he'll break out and Batman starts. Yeah. But for there to be a Batman during the riots, Thomas Wayne and his lovely wife, Martha, and their son Bruce, they leave the opera to see that there's a great chaos going on, or theater. We think it's opera. Yeah. And they go down an alleyway, and then one of the guys from the riots shoots Thomas Wayne, Martha. Mask. And actually pulls the he has a clown mask on, and pulls her beads or her pearls we've seen 100 times. Yeah. And then Bruce is there by himself, and Batman starts. Yeah. That's a pretty good way to kind of like just barely hint at the origin stories. An origin story we've seen 4 times now. Yeah. But still.
But I like it. Might as well add it in there.
Yeah. It was,
I can see what you could have done without it. I guess you could have done without seeing any Bruce, and
I almost think it would have been cool if we just saw them almost. Yeah, this would have been too much. It would have been like for the people that really cared. Like during this scene that we see, like him in the cop car,
he looks through an alley and there's just a kid standing over 2 parents.
Or we just see Thomas and Martha like with Bruce like running down the road out of a theater, and we don't have to know what's gonna happen, but we know that it's a theater.
We know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we know that. Oh, the theater scene. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that would have been good.
So we didn't need to necessarily get so heavy-handed with that part, but I mean, we're at 97. I guess we got to lose 3 points somewhere. we'll toss one of them there.
There you go.
Okay, so very long review. Anything else you want to toss in?
Do you think another theory that I well, there's a lot of theories online, but one that I was thinking too. The scene at the end with the therapist, they had mentioned that online that the therapist looks very similar to the one that he was seeing.
Yeah, social worker.
Social worker, yeah. But do you think that all of his success could have been an illusion?
Could have been him talking to himself.
He was simply sitting in that lady's office.
I see.
From the moment the screen came on.
God, yeah, that could be the case.
Yeah, he was never home. Like, he imagined he killed his mom. He imagined
his mom abandoned him when he was a kid.
Yeah, he imagined that Bruce Wayne could have been his dad, and he imagined that he got vengeance on him in a long about way.
Oh, man.
He could have imagined all of that stuff.
You can rewatch this movie so many times to catch something different every time. Yeah. I love movies like that. Super excited for that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to get out before we wrap this thing up?
No,
we have like 2 more topics to get to today, and we're at an hour and 5, so this is going to be about an hour and 40-minute episode.
Break.
If you want to take a break, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This stream will be watching everything. We'll cut everything else out. Anyway, so, all right. So I'm giving it a 97. You're giving it a...
I'll do 95.
95?
Yeah.
Okay. You're really not a big fan of Bruce, huh? That's what it was.
Yeah. But now that I think about it, you probably could have cut out all the Bruce scenes. You would have lost some of the mainstream people who aren't watching it for...
Right.
Who are just
the
watching
people that are complaining right now anyways.
Yeah. But I think you could have done just fine in his story, in Arthur Fleck's story, without having any Bruce in it.
I liked the Thomas idea. I think the Thomas idea was cool.
Yeah, tying him in as a potential father.
You just needed a rich guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That was good.
All right, guys. Next up, we have our interview with Mindy Indy, creator of the Airhead comic book. Super excited for that. That's a really good conversation we have. Again, the edit is a little rough because of some dropouts, but it's very good. All right, that's coming up next.